Hello, welcome back to the VikingGnomeAnime. In this one, I thought I would make a video talking about why exactly I think remonster would have been better as a hentai. Yes, you might say, really? Yes, exactly, indeed. Now, I will be discussing a lot around why I think it will be better as a hentai, or at least, let's say, more adult-focused than it currently is. But before we get to that, I want to quickly take a look at the story and characters and explain why exactly it would just be better going full-blown adult 18+. And well, a lot of the problems do end up being with the story, as with the characters. And while the story here, the potential plot, the potential developments, is really full of potential, like it is. I do love the main character of what he can be, and I love this potential of what the story can be in terms of building, let's say, a nation or their own sort of tribe, which can be akin to slime, for example, right? But the issues lie in the potential being there, but the execution sorely lacking. The story only seems to go skin deep, and it largely remains superficial. There is very little to become invested in this anime, and it doesn't really delve too deep into any one aspect, both in terms of character and story, and that just really leaves out a ton of what it could be and how good it could be if they actually took the time and effort to explore those things, which this anime doesn't seem too interested in doing. Now, I will have a small caveat here to say that I have only watched, 7 episodes so far of season 1, but I think that is more than enough to suffice to make this impression. Same as with the story, the same really goes for the characters. None of them are particularly fleshed out. None of them are particularly interesting. Like, I can barely remember most of their names, or any of their names, and I watched this yesterday, right? I can barely remember anything outside their assumed power levels and their names and some very general caricature of what they are supposed to be. But I don't really know anything about them, their motivations, what they want in life. None of that is really developed. It's not shown, it's not described. Like, none of the characters really feel like characters. The MC is the most developed, thankfully, but even him is pretty bog standard, and nothing about him really is super interesting, at least with what they have shown so far. And that really is too bad. None of them seem like individuals, right? None of them seem real. Of course, I say that with caveats, but for you to have a good show, if you to have an engrossing, interesting anime, or any show for that matter, you need to have your characters seem like real people, right? They have to seem like real individuals with an actual brain. And you have to know their motivations, what they want, what they strive for, what they want to accomplish in life, right? But we get very, very little or any of that for most, if not all, the characters in this anime. What we get instead, after the first 2-3 episodes, is a lot of banging. Yes, a lot of banging. We get a ton of, suggestive, semi-adult content, right? In multiple episodes, which really doesn't further anything of the notion of this being a serious or impactful story. And you could, of course, do a lot with this base, right? But when you think about the shows this anime is going to be overall connected to or compared to, for example, I'm a Spider So What, or Slime, of course, which is also incidentally airing this season, it falls very, very, very short of both of those anime in terms of quality and storytelling and plot and characters, which really does suck, because this anime, it really does have a ton of potential. Like, this main character, as far as I've heard, at least from the light novels, is supposed to be more of a sociopathic, first come, first serve, being more self-interested, not really caring about his fellow humans or beings, and being pretty self-involved. And then maybe slowly, progressively becoming more developed over time. That could be a really interesting story, right? And it would also make sense why he makes decisions, like why he kind of just grapes a ton of women in this show over time. He doesn't really have a lot of morals, or he's pretty unscrupulous and is very gray, if not dark in some areas in terms of his morality or what he's willing to do. But this anime seems to sort of try to make him out to be more of a hero character, which doesn't seem in line at all with what he actually does a lot of the time. If this is an anime only thing and the light novel material actually is in fact way more darker and gritty, then that's a massively missed beat for this anime, which could have really made it really interesting from a story, plot, and character beat. But no, instead, we just get this very generic anime that, at this point, might as well just have gone full on into hentai, or at least 18+, more like Redo of Healer territory, to actually get a proper fan base. Like, it's a cheesy isekai, and the story is so lackluster. And with how much suggestive things there are in this show, it might as well just have gone all the way. But before we discuss exactly why I think it would be better as a hentai. If you are enjoying this video and this content here, please remember to like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel out and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Now, let's discuss exactly why this would be better as a hentai. As I mentioned before, after the first few episodes, the show really doesn't shy away from adult actions, right? You have the Dryad encounter where he does 5 hours of intense sexual intercourse, I guess. And from there, we just get continually more and more sex and adult suggestive activities every single episode, more or less. Not a single episode, I think, does not have him graping or doing some other sexual thing with women. And he has a lot of them at this point. And that is where this anime sort of misses out on what it could be, and arguably should be. Especially considering the MC seems to, for example, with the knight he captures in episode 5 or 6, and the other person with the knight, that he seemingly uses some sort of libido or intoxication skill to get them to break, I guess, to like want him to have sex with him or something along those lines. And then he teaches them a lesson by basically raping them, I guess, when the knight is screaming no. That's interesting. I mean, at that point, it's like, okay, I mean, you're just gonna do that, but then not show anything but a few screams, not have any action. Like, at this point, why aren't you going all the way? I mean, sure, yes, I understand you have limitations based on what you are allowed to show to a general audience, PG audience, but then what's the point? It's not going to get you any larger appeal or income long-term, I'd say. But yes, as they have these themes, these sexual, let's say, sort of horny, teenage-esque, semi-adult themes continually through the show, they keep wanting to keep the show PG and not show anything outside of the very, acceptable, semi-suggestive adult imagery, right? And that just like, it seems like such a half-assed thing to do. Like, okay, you clearly have a story that is very much based on this, and from what I've heard, the source material is even more based on this. So why are you trying to make this neutered, cheesy, pretty generic isekai story with how they are developing things and how they are showing things, and then just not going all in on the adult activities? Like, why not? Like, it's just holding the story back, or, well, holding the action back, the contents, so to speak, back. Since there is a lack of most anything else in the show, of note anyway, that I mentioned prior, with the story characters and everything else being so, well, lackluster and generic in many places, you might as well just go balls deep, go balls to the wall, literally, and just go with the adult themes. Just go into this being much more of a hentai, more of a radio healer thing, and not shy away from that. Be what you want to be, and try to carve out a much smaller, but much more, let's say, fervent fan base of your show and of your IP by doing that. While I can understand they might want to appeal to a bigger audience, right? Have this be more of a PG, everyone can watch it. It's like just ecchi, suggestive fun. But considering the story they are adapting and how the anime is going about things, it doesn't seem like an ecchi at all. It seems way more of an actual, adult thing. And the larger audience they might have, or they do have, because of it being neutered and PG, these people like me are not gonna really care about the show. Sure, I'll watch it, but again, I can barely remember any of the characters' names, and I don't really care about them at all because of how undeveloped and baseline they are. All of them. Like, even if they release an uncensored Blu-ray version, which I don't think they will, but if they do, still, they should have made the base anime much more Radio of Healer-esque to, let's say, lure in that audience to make money off those people that enjoy specifically the more 18+ type of anime content. Even, of course, the show will never mind to anything amazing, even as a hentai or whatever else. At least, as I mentioned, they can eke out that much smaller but much more loyal and interested fan base that are also much more likely to, pay for Blu-rays or fan art or things, especially if you have some very graphical, extra goodies in your packs, whatever, when you sell merchandise and whatnot. You will have much more success with that from a business standpoint, and the show will be much more enjoyable from a standpoint as well, because then people will know going in that, okay, it's this kind of show. That's fine if you enjoy that, but have way better expectations, and people will enjoy the show as a result much more as well. And then, of course, yes, your audience will be much smaller, but the one audience you do get will be much more inclined to like the show and be loyal to it moving forward, and the IP. As I mentioned before, I do believe, as far as I've been told, as far as I've seen, the source material is supposed to be more adult, and the main character in the source material, as far as I know, again, is supposed to be way more of a sociopath and way more of a self-interested prick in many areas. And that would be way more interesting than what they're currently trying to build in this anime, by the way. But as that it seems to be the case, as far as I know, again, that fits really well with it being like a hentai story, right? Or like a hentai light story, right? You can have this redo of healer, just let the main character go crazy, right? Have all these, let's say nonsensical or over-the-top sexual encounters and show it, be graphical, have fun with it, really just niche in on that adult market. And if they did that, well, at least the people that enjoy that sort of thing would, I think, really like it. The story isn't great, the story is very lackluster, as I said, but if it was a hentai, the story would be more than sufficient, right? People that watch hentai or watch hentai light shows, read of healer, right, are not overly concerned about the plot being that good, right? They want thick plot, I'm sure, but the actual plot is not of major importance. But if you try to make an actual anime with characters and story and plot, well, then, these things are important. And because of the major lack of that in this show, again, I think the end conclusion is just that it would have been better if they would have gone full on, balls to the wall, and just not limited themselves to this PG, whatever it is they're trying to do here. Safe to say, I'll have a lot more to say about the show in my season 1 review, going over much more things in detail, not focusing as much on this, let's say, hentai point, which will be coming probably next week or so by the time the show finishes. But anyhow, that is my general consensus of why exactly I think Remonster would have been much better of a show, or of a piece of content anyway, as a hentai, or at least hentai light 18 plus show, instead of this PG, halfway there, lackluster isekai that has many, many shortcomings. Anyhow, though, hope you had some value out of this video. Hope you learned something new. What are your thoughts on Remonster? Do you agree with me? Not agree with me? Leave all those thoughts down below. Please, of course, if you want to watch more videos from my channel, click on whatever is on screen right now, or check your suggested on the side. With that being said, hope you have a nice day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.